abort. Do not send this. Do not upload. You need to give them the fantasy. You need to give your audience the fantasy of what this looks like for you. Otherwise, people are not going to trust you and they're not going to be confident in you. Welcome back to the Hypersensitive Podcast. What is up, everybody? I'm your host, Chrissy Mazaliski, and I want to say happy Wednesday to you all if you're tuning in today. And I know you're like, Wednesday, wasn't this supposed to be out on Tuesday? Didn't you say Tuesdays, Chrissy? Maybe nobody's thinking that. Maybe nobody cares except for me. Yes, you're right. I was supposed to have this uploaded on Tuesday. And I just love having technical shit that comes up. And that is, I guess that's my lesson that I need to learn, is to get out of my perfectionist ass and just do it and just upload it anyway. I've had cameras stop recording this week. I have had issues with this sign. If you are watching, welcome to my living room. This sign has been the bane of my existence. It just flickers. And I have plugins, I have different editing software, I can fix it to some degree, but then it just takes 17 hours, literally, to upload. So anyways, all this technical stuff that has come up and you're like, what are you even on about? But it got me up in my feelings, okay? It was stressing me out. And so I'm recording this for a third and final time. And yeah, it's, caused a little delay in production this week. So thank you all for being patient with me while I maneuver through this tech side of things. It's amazing. Anyways, I want to get into it. I was down the YouTube rabbit hole last week and I had stumbled upon a couple of videos. I'm always on YouTube. I watch a lot of YouTube. And one of the videos I was watching was two podcasters that I'd never heard of that I stumbled upon. And they were talking about why you shouldn't be vulnerable and share your personal life online, which intrigued me because I am not listening to that and I'm doing the opposite at this moment in time. And so I listened, and the guest that was on the show was sharing a story about when she was struggling with her business. She was going through it and feeling like she wanted to share with her clients, with her customers, about what she had been going through. I presume this was during COVID when everybody was having a really difficult time. And so she wanted to open up and share what was happening. And before she had pressed upload or send, she went to her mentor and was like, I'm going to run this by them first and just see what they think. And her mentor read it and was like, no, stop right there. Abort. Do not send this. Do not upload. You need to give them the fantasy. You need to give your audience the fantasy of what this looks like for you. Otherwise, people are not going to trust you and they're not going to be confident in you. So the idea was that she needed to allude that everything was fine and that in some way people don't respect or respond to people who are being real. And in some way, it makes us feel like we can't trust these people because clearly they're not very confident. And we find confidence to be magnetic. And people are not going to be drawn to you if you decide to overshare. Just hide it and just give the illusion that everything is fine. So I thought that was really interesting. And it led me into a video that I had previously watched, which was about the It Girl. And you're like, what is that? Okay, well, the It Girl is sort of this idea. It was this enigmatic person that is shrouded in mystery. She is cool and sexy and unbothered and is able to show up online and give you a glimpse of her life without actually sharing anything about herself, and thus makes her magnetic and interesting because we are attracted to this idea of, wanting to know more. We create a story for these people that may or may not be true at all. So I see these people as more of an idea of a person than maybe showing up as a real person. So I had these thoughts. Am I going to be showing up online, and am I going to be embarrassed about what I end up putting out? Because the podcast that I was listening to, she had said that she was grateful that her mentor told her to not post. In the moment, she was frustrated, and she felt like if she doesn't tell her truth, then how can she live with herself? This is something that she wanted to share with her own audience, and she wanted to share a piece of what was going on because she felt like people could relate. I stopped myself for a moment. I was like, am I going to be embarrassed about what I share, 3, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when I have children someday? Maybe. Maybe not. Then I stumbled upon another YouTube video, and it was with Brené Brown. And you've probably already heard of her. I had heard the name, but I had never actually read any of her books or listened to her speak. And so I decided to dive into this video because it was about vulnerability, and I needed something to put me back on my equilibrium, because now I was thinking, God, am I going to just have all of these regrets, or should I keep going? And so I listened to this video. It came out like 12 years ago. It was a TED Talk, and Brené Brown is an author. She's a podcaster. She was a professor. And she speaks into vulnerability. She speaks into shame. That became sort of this dichotomy. I had these two opposing forces. One set of views saying, stay mysterious, give the people what they want, just be an image online, but don't let people in because people don't really care and people just want to see you be confident. But do people want to see you be confident if it's not real? Can we not be confident and also share and be vulnerable and be confident with that? And do we need to share online? Is that necessary to show up here in this space? If you had told me that I was going to be doing anything like this, that I was going to be sharing online, I was going to have a camera in my face, I was going to have a microphone, and I was going to talk about my feelings, and I was going to talk about my life, I wouldn't. I just would not. I would have fainted. I would have fainted, and I would have never have done it. Because I wanted to blend into the background, not so much my personality, but I wanted to ensure that my life was kept offline. I didn't want people to know what I was going through because for a multitude of reasons, people would have thought I was weird. People would have thought that maybe I am a bad person or that I'm unprofessional. I saw expressing your feelings and being emotional online as messy. I saw it as weak. And I want to talk about that because as a woman who is allowed to be emotional and has been allowed and trained to express our feelings, I'm a hypersensitive person. How do I not emote? Well, I didn't think that it looked very good. And I thought that if I was in any way succumbing to my vulnerabilities, that somebody could in some way respond and it would hurt me more, that I was going to be perceived in a way that may or may not be truthful. And so I wanted to wear my strength and my perceived strength, which was just don't ask anybody for help and just continue forward, be tough. Like that's not just a masculine thing. This happens to the feminine as well, where we think that sharing our feelings is a weakness and we don't want anybody to help us because we're supposed to be able to handle it emotionally. We are supposed to be more in touch with ourselves. And yes, we do express with our friends and our families more. We are more open typically than the masculine side of things. But as social media has continued to build its force, I started to realize that in order for me to not feel alone, other people opening up made me feel more normal. So I think that sharing does have a purpose. And there was a quote that I'm somewhat paraphrasing by Brene Brown. And she said that embracing vulnerability allows us the freedom to be who we really are. And she said another thing that I thought was really interesting. She said that being vulnerable isn't always comfortable, because it's not. She said being vulnerable isn't always comfortable, but it might be necessary. And so something in me said that what I'm doing here is necessary. There could be somebody out there that feels in some way similar to the ways that I have. But I also think that you have to define your relationship with your audience. And whether you think you have an audience or not, whether you are an influencer or if you're just a regular person online, you still have an audience. There are still people that follow you. There's still people that watch your life unfold. So I think that you need to define what online is for you. Is it just a source of entertainment? Is it education? Is it news? Is it creativity and beauty? Because I think that there is a way to share your thoughts and your feelings and your ideas and be vulnerable that isn't just you dumping all over the internet. I think that you should take the 20-minute rule or the 2-day rule or whatever it is. It's like when you write an email when you're really frustrated, that would not be the time to upload a video or to jump on a podcast and start spewing all of your feelings, because we haven't made sense of them yet. And not every thought and every feeling is necessary. Sometimes we have to work through those things before we're ready to share. And I see vulnerability and I see sharing online as a teacher. And I think that the point of being vulnerable and sharing online is to open up the space, to allow people to be heard, and to identify with others and be able to connect. But I also think that we all need to remember that the internet, and like I said, our audience, they are not our friends. These are not our therapist. These people are not there to support and uplift you. And although that is a part of it, and that is often what people live for online, is for people to validate your looks, your feelings, and your thoughts. And that's great when people can uplift us and console us and let us know that it's going to be okay and that they've lived through similar things. But when it goes the other way and people decide to share with us opinions that don't necessarily align with how we're feeling, it's a possibility that we may feel in some way wounded. We may feel attacked. And so I leave you with this. I think you can live and exist on both sides. You can be vulnerable and you can share, and you can be open and you can be truthful. And I also think that you can keep parts of your life just for you. I think it's important to have boundaries and be aware of what you're sharing and be confident with what you're sharing. You may not be comfortable, but be confident with what you're sharing and know that what you're saying is truthful, and people will feel that and they will hear that. And save those things that are closest to you for the people that are closest to you. Keep that for yourself. It's not for everybody. So I think just ask yourself, how do you want to show up online? What's best for you? You can show up any way that you like. And as long as it's authentic and honest for you, then it's perfect. Who cares what anybody else thinks? I stopped caring a year ago, only a year ago. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. I will catch you on the next episode next week, hopefully Tuesday. If you are on Spotify, feel free to participate in the polls, comment, like, subscribe. If there's any topics you want me to cover in future episodes, let me know. And I wish you all the best week ahead. I will catch you next week. Love y'all. Bye for now.